Foxtrot Bravo Bravo Tower, fly runway heading.
Fly runway heading, Foxtrot Bravo Bravo.
Charlie Zulu November, clear to land runway 13.
Charlie Zulu November, clear to land 13.
Zulu Sierra Alpha, change of plans, crossover midfield, join right downwind runway 13.
Greetings everyone and welcome to Dane SimAir. Today we're going to do a very short flight, and this will be my second time ever live streaming. The first time was quite a nervous event, and this second time is still a nervous event. Not sure if I'm doing it right, but let's hope that it all comes out. It all comes out properly. So, yeah, I'm just looking over here to see. I'm not even sure how to set up Twitch properly to be able to see the actual streaming taking place, but I've got it in. I'll just show you where I have it, and if anyone wants to give me some tips, I'd appreciate it. I don't know if this is where I'm supposed to have it. And this thing says Stream Manager. But that's what I'm looking at right now. Okay, so today what we're planning on doing, first of all, we are at Paine Airport, and I'll just show you on a little nav map where we are. So we are sitting here at Paine, Snohomish County, Paine Airport, Kilo Papa Alpha Echo. Sitting here at parking spot 175. What we want to do today is a short flight, and it's basically a practice of a procedure, two procedures really. The first one is a procedure to we're going to take off, and we're going to simulate that we've been coming into land and we've got a missed approach. The runway 16 left. So we'll simulate a missed approach procedure, which brings us, we'll continue flying. Let me just pop up my briefing notes here. We're going to continue flying. Just make that screen a little bit smaller so I can see better. We're going to continue climbing for the go-around, and we'll fly the runway heading to 1,100 feet, which should be approximately 2 nautical miles from the Paine VOR. At that point, and that, by the way, that's just past the Home Depot, which is just right here. And at that point, we will turn right to a heading of 260 degrees, and we'll continue 260 degrees till we, up to 2,000 feet, until we intercept the Paine VOR radial of 236 degrees. Once we intercept that radial, we will turn left to join the radial, and we'll fly out to the 9 DME point, which is the Isepo intersection. And once we reach that Isepo intersection, which is 9 nautical miles from the Paine VOR, we will go into a right holding pattern. And because our aircraft is flying at approximately 100 knots, it's a much smaller holding pattern than the typical big jets that would be up here. So we're on a smaller holding pattern. There's still 1 minute legs And we'll fly this pattern. We'll just do one circuit of the pattern. Then we'll come back to the 236 radial, fly 9 nautical miles to the Isepo intersection again. This is where we'll join the procedure for the VOR DME arc. So we'll follow this arc. In fact, let me bring up the Jeppesen chart for that. I'll just pop that on the screen over here. Let me just switch back to the screen view. So we're going to follow the DME arc 9 nautical miles from the VOR, and we'll start increasing our elevation to 3,000 feet, because at the Yavur intersection right here, we need to be at 3,000 feet. So we'll follow this arc around, and just before we go any further, this is the Jeppesen VOR Alpha chart, which is a circle to land chart, which means that you could do a circle to land either on 16 right, which is usually the big jets, or 16 left, which is the smaller runway. So once we make our way to the Yavur intersection, we will begin our 160-degree turn into the VOR, and we'll follow that down. Whoops. Get rid of that. We'll follow that down to the Zelig intersection, which is our initial approach fix, which is 3 nautical miles from the VOR. Once we reach there at 1,500 feet, we need to make sure we can in fact see the runway. If everything is clear, we will do a circle to land, which means we will break away from that 160-degree tracking in. We'll break away to the left, and we'll line up with 16 left coming in to land. So that is the plan for the approach. Now, this is a Class Bravo and a Class Echo and Delta airspace, but looking at air traffic control, there are no air traffic controllers on duty in the Seattle area at all. So we won't worry about air traffic control. However, we will use the VATSIM. Network, and we will make our radio calls on the Unicom frequency. So I've already set up a flight plan. We're at KPAE. Departure will be about 17. It doesn't really matter. We'll just say 17:45 to give us some time. Right now it's about 1727. It's not going to be any more than 30 minutes. We've got 4 hours of fuel on board. Cruise speed is 100. We'll be at 3,000 feet. And the route is basically VFR. Missed approach, runway 16 left, practice. So I'm going to file that right now. Oh, yeah, I couldn't file it because I'm not connected. Guess we need to connect first, don't we? We'll connect first. Now we're connected. And now I'll file a flight plan. Okay, that's been done. Let me just get this so we don't have to worry about any airspaces. So we'll just take them off the map so it makes the map a little bit easier to see. Okay. So the object of all of this is to try to keep as close as possible to these headings, altitudes, airspeed. And when you're on the arc, FAA allows a plus or minus 0.1 nautical mile from the VOR. So in this case it's a 9 DME, so we're allowed to go out to say 9.1 or 8.9 on the inside. So we'll try to maintain that as best as possible. Winds are 254 at 2 knots. We're using runway 16, so we're going to have a right-hand crosswind on takeoff. So again, I don't know how many of you have done the DME arc, but once we enter the arc, we're going to be turning our we're going to at the DME arc from the 236 radial, we're going to turn our heading bug to 330 and turn the aircraft to 330. We'll set our OBS to 070. And we'll follow that around, and every 10 degrees we'll twist 10 on the OBS, and we'll turn the heading bug 10 degrees each time all the way around. You'll see that as we get going. So without any further ado, let's get this aircraft running. All right, let's get into the aircraft. Okay, this is a Cessna 152 with the modified package from JP Logistics. It's my favorite single-engine light aircraft. Alright, so the startup procedure is pretty simple. Parking brake is set. Fuel valve down here is turned on. Master battery on. Panel lights on. Beacon lights on. Dome lights on. We'll go to the engine start now. Engine's been sitting for a little while, so we're going to prime it. So what we want to open the throttle. We want to fully open the throttle. Fully open the mixture. We want to make sure the carb heat is off. That's on, that's off. We're going to prime it 3 or 4 times. 1, 2, 3 should do it. We're going to close the throttle and open it back up to about 1/4 of an inch. Which 1/4 of an inch will give us, it should give us around 1000 RPM when we start the engine, so 1000 RPM up here. We want to make sure the radios are off, which they now are. Okay, let's start her up. Okay, that's a good start. We've got 1000 RPMs on the tachometer. We've got oil pressure is coming up. Oil temperature is good. It's in the green. There's our more than half full tanks of gas. We can now turn the alternator on. And now that the alternator is on, we can check our vacuum gauge, our suction gauge, to make sure it's in the green. I'm just going to slide over here and turn our radios on. Radios are on. And I'm just looking at my checklist here, so I keep looking down. We need to turn our DME on, because that's a vital part of our doing the DME arc. Excuse me. And transponder, we need to set it to altitude mode, VFR 1200, which it is. Altitude mode. We're going to turn our nav lights on, our taxi lights on. And rather than doing the run up at the threshold of the runway, I think we'll just do it right here. So we'll leave the parking brakes on. So what we want to do for the run-up is 1700 on the RPM. 16. That looks like about 1700 right there. We're going to check the right magneto. There shouldn't be any more than 125 RPM drop, which there isn't. And then we'll check the left magneto. And that's about the same. We're going to turn the carb heat on. We should see about 100 RPM drop, which we see about 75 with the carb heat on. We'll bring our throttles right back to idle. Alternator light will come on because we're below 1000 RPM. But we should idle at about 700, no less than 700. And at that point we're going to test our flaps. 1 notch. You can see on the alternator here the battery discharges right there every time you use the electric flaps. Bring the flaps back up because we do not need flaps for takeoff. We'll put our throttle back to 1000 RPM. Alternator light should go out, which it just did. We'll turn our ADF radio on, not that we're really using it. The autopilot needs to be off, which it is. All the circuit breakers are in. Okay. Okay, so at this point, pretty much done the run-up. Everything is good. We're going to set our trim for takeoff, and I like the trim right between the off and the nose label, so I usually like the trim right about there. No flaps. Instruments are all set. Radios, no, the instruments aren't set yet. Radios are on. Autopilot is off. We're going to turn the pitot heat on today, and we'll turn our landing lights on right now. I'm going to turn the strobes on. So we've got everything on. I'm going to turn the panel lights up as far as they'll go, and the radio lights up as far as they go. Okay, we should be pretty much ready to go. We're going to set our altimeter. We're going to check our compass to the directional gyro to make sure they're in sync. It's looking like about 65 degrees, and right now we're looking there at about 70, so we should bring this back to 65. I'm going to be using runway 16 left, so we'll set our heading bug to 160. Okay. So the only other thing we need to do now is tune in the Paine VOR. And the Paine VOR is 110.6. So we'll tune that in now. And yeah, then we'll swap that over. There we are. And we're going to turn the OBS to 236 degrees, which is the radial that we have to intercept from the Paine VOR. So turn that to 236. We'll turn our radio to 122.8, which is the Unicom frequency, and we'll swap that over. Okay, seat belts are fastened, everything is looking good. Everything's looking good. I just want to check one other thing before we depart. No, we'll just minimize. Okay. Let's close the doors. And we said we were going to depart at about 17:45, and it's about 17:43 right now. So let's make our first radio call. Paine traffic, Cessna Delta Echo Whiskey at the ramp, GA ramp, taxiing to runway 16 left. Paine. Okay, let's head out and see what trouble we can get into. It's actually a nice day for flying. Winds are 254 at 2 knots. The rudder pedals on my system, I don't know if it's the pedals or it's the simulator, but I quite often have trouble with the rudder pedals. What I will do is announce before takeoff that we'll be doing a right crosswind departure instead of the usual left. Also that we'll be... brakes are so sensitive. Of course, I'm maybe taxiing too fast as well. And that we'll be crossing the light path, runway 16 right. So there's nothing coming in, so we are really ready to go, so I'll just make that radio call now. We've already done our run-up check. Main traffic, Cessna Delta Echo Whiskey at 16 left, ready to depart. We'll be doing a unusual right crosswind departure. We'll be crossing over the takeoff path of runway 16 right. So aircraft using 16 right, please take note. Main traffic. Let's line up. Rotate speed is 50 knots in this aircraft. And we want to climb out at about 60 knots. Okay, we are advancing the throttle. Everything's in the green. Airspeed is not alive. Yes, it's alive now. 35 knots, 40 knots. 45 knots, 50 knots, rotate. We are up. Try to set our trim for 60 knot climb. Main traffic, Cessna Delta Echo Whiskey has departed runway 16 left, Paine. Okay, at about 2 nautical miles out, we're at 1.7 right now, we're at 1100. There's the Home Depot, we can turn right to heading 260. Main traffic, Cessna Delta Echo Whiskey making right crosswind departure from the 16 left runway. Main traffic. So there's 16 left, there's 16 left, there's 16 right. just show you on the map where we are. Oh, I am showing you already where we are. Got to change the view. That's a problem. That's something I've got to get used to. It is switching views. You're streaming. What I should do is what many of you do, is actually take the window that I want to show you and just drag it in. That's what I should do. That way I'm never leaving it on by mistake. That's what Rob of Slant Alpha mentioned to me once. We're gonna keep this aircraft steady. Oh, better watch my altitude. I'm up to 2,700. Watching for the CDI needle to intercept. You know, we could stay at 3,000 right here, but it actually calls for 2,000 feet in the holding pattern, so I think I'll reduce my altitude back down to 2,000 feet. I wasn't watching my altitude as I was talking. Okay, we're coming down to 2,200 feet, which is where we need to be. Needle hasn't begun an intercept yet. Okay, we're at 2,000 feet. We'll advance our power about 2,200 RPM. The needle's starting to move now. I'll show you on the map what's happening. Here we are. Right there. So once that needle centers to 236, we'll turn to a heading of 236. We'll set our heading bug to 236. Now my altitude's too low. I've gotta watch this altitude. Okay, I'm gonna switch our heading bug to 236 now. Okay, we are now centered. We can turn our heading to 236 and increase our altitude to 2,000 feet. Okay, so we're on 236. haven't started the holding pattern yet. We're still on the radio. Have to wait till we get out to 9 nautical miles. We're only at 6.4 right now. I find it difficult reading that DME lettering. It's a little bit light. I'll show you on the map where we are. Here we are right there. Coming up to the outer edge of the holding pattern. Okay, we're coming up to 1900 feet. Eighty knots. Could increase our speed to 100 knots actually, that would be better. We are coming up to, what does it say, 7.8 nautical miles. Okay, we're at 2,000 feet. Lower the nose a bit. Pick up our airspeed. We're now at, what are we at? 8.5 nautical miles. We're at 90 knots. We're at 8.8 nautical miles. Okay, we're going to go into, we're at 9, so we're going to go into a right straight one turn. Turn to 056 degrees. Reciprocal of 236. Maintaining 2,000 feet. Coming up on 056 now. Okay, we're at 056. Straighten out, set our timer again for 1 minute. That initial turn that I made there was a little bit too sharp of a bank. But the thing about a holding pattern is you don't have to follow that racetrack as if you're a car on the track. You're basically following the general outline. There goes my altitude again. I'm not watching my altitude. That's not good. You're generally doing an oval shape. You don't necessarily have to follow the lines on the map. Okay, we should be ready to make our turn. This time it's going to be more of a gradual turn. We want to keep the bank right about there. Keep our airspeed. Try to keep our airspeed over 80. Try to keep it around 90. So right now we're heading to a heading of 236. We want to intercept that radial again. And we're doing that right now. We're intercepting the radio. And we're on 236. Okay. Getting back down to 2,000 feet. So now, we have to prepare for the DME arc when we reach 9 nautical miles. Right here. We'll turn our heading bug to 330. And we'll set the OBS to 070. Well, I'm going to set the heading bug now to 330. Just 90 degrees from where we are now. And we are at 8.9, so I'm going to start my turn to 330. And I'm going to set the OBS to 070. You'll see what's going to happen. Made my turn a little bit late. Just going to have to overcorrect here. Back to the right. Set my OBS to 070. And you'll see the needle went over to the left. We were at 9.2. Yeah, we turned a bit late, so we've got to bring that aircraft back into 9 nautical miles. And we can start increasing our altitude to 3,000 feet. So we're at 9 nautical miles now. We'll turn back to 330. Okay, once this needle gets centered, we'll turn the OBS another 10 degrees. And we'll turn the heading bug another 10 degrees. So 330, 070. Excuse me. Nine nautical miles, which is perfect. And CDI has centered. So we will now turn the OBS to 080. Needle goes off. We wait for it to come back in. We'll turn our heading bug to 340. Yeah, I've got a left crosswind. Actually, the wind has now gone up to 5 knots. It's still at 254. It's actually 257 at 5 knots, so it's pushing me to the right. Show you on the map what's taking place. Here I am there. That was my holding pattern. Oops. Okay, we'll go back to the aircraft. Okay, I need to pay attention to what I'm doing. The needle is passed, which is okay. We'll now set it to 090. Then we'll set this to 350. Not doing a good job of holding that DME arc. I'm at 9.2 right now. I've got to bring it back to 9 nautical miles. Yeah, I'm at 9.2. I'm allowed 9.1. That's okay. We'll bring it back in. So OBS is centered. We're going to turn this now to 100. We're going to set this heading bug 360. That's about where we need to be right there. We're at 3,000 feet, which is the correct altitude. Everything looks good. We're at 9 nautical miles. CDI needle is coming in. We're at 3,200 feet. We don't need to be that high. We can come back down to 3,000. Okay, we're gonna reset the OBS now to 110. Okay, and we'll set this to 010 in degrees. Come on, Dane, get a hold of your altitude. OBS to 120. We're at 9 nautical miles now. Heading bug is at 020. 3,000 feet, 90 knots. Everything's in the green. No, we could have taken the carb heat off. We didn't need that on. That should have been taken off before our departure. Okay, you just set the OBS to 130. Need to get back into 9 nautical miles. We're at 9.1. If you're going to be off, you're best to be off on the outside of the arc rather than the inside of the arc, I believe. Although you shouldn't be off at all. 0.1 is all you should be off. Although I stand to be corrected on which side you can be off on. Maybe someone can let me know about that. Okay, let's turn the OBS to, what are we at now? 130, we want to go to 140. Heading bug to 040. We're at 9.1 again. We're at 3,000 feet. Now we're going to turn the OBS to 150. Coming up to that. And we need to turn this heading bug to 050. We're coming up to that to that 160 degree course into the VOR. That's our next turn. I'll just show you on the map. There we are. We're going to be turning right here to intercept the 160 and come down. What we need to do. Okay, it's centered. We're going to turn the OBS to 160. Turn the heading bug to 060 degrees. Actually, we're going to turn the heading bug to 160 now because that's the course we'll be taking into the VOR. So just before this centers, we're going to turn right to intercept the 160 degree track into the VOR. So we're going to turn right about now, 160. Okay, we're on 160. We're going to follow this in. And I'll show you on the map. I'll just drag the map over actually. There we are on the map coming in. And right here is 1,500 feet. We make a left turn, circle to land turn. So we can start reducing power, reduce our altitude to 1,500 feet. You can see the airport up ahead there. Runway 16 left is right over, there's the Boeing factory. We have to be at no lower than 1,100 feet as we cross over the Boeing factory. Gives us the legal 500-foot elevation above an obstacle. There's runway 16 right, big jets, and that's runway 16 left. See the flashing, so we can see it. Give a call to traffic now. Main traffic, Cessna Delta Echo Whiskey on a 6-mile final for runway 16 left. Paine. So we've got that right crosswind, that's why I'm crabbing. Crab angle is approximately 15 degrees actually. Yeah, we've got a 5-knot crosswind. We're at 2,500 feet. We need to lose some more altitude to come down to 1,500. Put carb on now. Okay. Carb heat is on. I'm gonna turn the marker beacon on. We're still holding our CDI centered to the VOR. When we're at 1,500 feet and 3 nautical miles from the airport, from the VOR, we will make, we're at 3.3, we'll make a left turn and break off. We're going to hold 1,500 feet now. We're going to make a left turn, break off to line up with runway 16 left. Okay, here's our left turn out now. So we're breaking away from the VOR's 160 track. And now we need to line up with runway 16 left, which is dead ahead of us. We're at 1,500 feet, that's okay. As long as we're no lower than 1,100 as we cross over the Boeing factory, we are good to go. I'm going to put in 1 notch of flaps. Lower the power here. Don't want to be too high. Okay, we'll just go hands-free. 70 knots. Gonna put in 1 more notch of flaps. We're at 1,300 feet, approaching the Boeing factory. We've got 5-knot crosswind. Winds are 270 at 5 knots. Paine traffic, Cessna Delta Echo Whiskey on short final, runway 16 left, Paine. Okay, we're over the Boeing factory. We're going to put in our 3rd and final notch of flaps and get ourselves down to the threshold of the runway. Okay, we've got 400 feet to go. Feet to go. 100 feet. Okay, 50 feet, rotate. And we are down, and will we make the first turn off? Yes, we will. Okay, we'll make this first turn off. Gonna stop here and just announce. Main traffic, Cessna Delta Echo Whiskey is clear of runway 16 left. Main traffic. Okay, we'll taxi into the parking area. Going to stow the flaps. Go to our after landing checklist. Taxi lights on, landing lights off, strobes are off, pitot heat is off, carb heat is off, the dome light is off. Okay, we'll continue our taxi into this first parking spot right here, which is my favorite, which is parking spot 175. Raise myself up a little bit so I can see where I'm going. Okay, I think that should do it. There's a line right there. Let's open the door. Get some air in this aircraft. There's our wheel. There's a line. That's pretty good. Okay, so parking brakes are set. This is the shutdown checklist. Parking brakes set. Avionics need to be turned off. Avionics are off. The ADF radio can be turned off, which it now is. A DME can be turned off, which it is. Turn off the transponder, which it now is. So, mixture fully lean. Throttles pull back. Quick mags test. Yep, everything's good. Alright, mags are off. Alternators off. Beacon light off. Taxi lights off. Nav lights off. Fuel valve closed. Panel lights off. And our master battery is off. So we were 31 minutes. And before we shut down, we'll just look at my track and see how poor it is. Not the greatest. So, we took off from 16 left, climbed out. You can see that that crosswind pushed me off track, which was wrong. I should have kept center line. We turned past the turning point. There's a Home Depot. We turned to 260. Zigzagged all the way out. We intercepted the 236-degree radial. So we flew. This was our first track into the holding to Isepo. We started our holding pattern turn a little bit late. You can see that we're off right here. And you can see that my turn was too steep an angle. And I ended up here instead of out here. Kept on down. But as I said, it doesn't really matter. You don't have to follow this track. You just have to create an oval holding pattern. Again, I turned too late. My turn was the right rate of turn because you can see the distance from here, the dotted line, to this dotted line is about the same as the printed holding pattern lines. So I followed that. Again, I made my turn onto the DME arc way too late. I should have made the turn right about here to get the DME arc, but I waited until 9 nautical miles and then I started. So then I had to try and correct myself back in, back out to the 9 nautical miles. And this is where I followed it all the way around. That's the point where I was at 9.2 right there. I followed this all the way around. I did a really good intercept at the Paine VOR 160 degree. I started my turn right there where you're supposed to. You don't wait till you're right at 160. I started my turn there and I intercepted the 160 right on the needle. And I followed that needle all the way in. And when we got to the 1500 feet initial approach fix, I broke away from the 160 degrees, turned left, at which point I lined up with runway 16 left, came in over the Boeing factory and landed. So, that's the end of my flight. Thank you for joining me on my second only live streaming. So with that said, I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. I might do a river run, or I'm not sure, I might do some navigating from point A to B to C. We'll see what I do next, I'm not sure. But with that said, I'm going to say farewell, and we'll catch you the next time in the skies.
Foxtrot Bravo Bravo Tower, fly runway heading.
Fly runway heading, Foxtrot Bravo Bravo.
Charlie Zulu November, clear to land runway 13.
Charlie Zulu November, clear to land 13.
Zulu Sierra Alpha, change of plans, cross over midfield, join right downwind runway 13.